Hello everyone, Steve Gans here, coming to you from Kauai, Hawaii on May 3rd, 2025 with the weekend update. So it was a pretty eventful week last week, not quite the way I would have expected. I actually had expected our markets to stall and even potentially start back down at this general resistance level in SPY. As we can see, that did not happen. We broke through that resistance level, came higher, and now we're into what may be a new resistance level. And I say maybe because this is a heavily news-driven market right now. And it seems like anything that happens in the news is what's fueling this direction. Now, we can see from a standpoint of volume, we had a big up volume day here on this day right here. Aside from that, the volume on those up days was pretty low. So that's a bit of an indicator that maybe this is running out of steam. The other thing I think it's important to look at, this line down here, this bottom line that goes along here, this is RSI, the relative strength. It is one of the few indicators that I tend to use. And this indicator, when we get up here into this 60 area or so on a reading, that tends to mark what we might consider to be temporary tops in the market. Each one of these, each time that we hit this overbought indicator, we seem to start to stall or roll over a little bit. Now, we're not quite to that 60 mark yet, but we're pretty darn close to it. And obviously, when you get up into the 70 range, it's even more of an indicator that we might have a temporary stall. That doesn't mean the market's going to crash on us. It just means that it might not be going up much further from there, or at least not at the same pace. And more often than not, might tend to have at least a temporary pullback. So I'm neutral on the market right now, just because I think we've used a lot of bullish steam here to get up to where we are. So that's looking at SPY. Of course, SPX is going to be exactly the same. All the readings are essentially the same, volume's the same, RSI is the same, etc. We take a look at volatility in SPY, and that volatility is making lower marks here, which is bullish. So now we look at the Qs, and again, very similar story in the Qs here. We have now poked through into a new potential area of resistance. We rose above this area that I was expecting we might stall at. Same thing with the Qs. Volume has been lighter with the exception of that one particular day. So that may indicate some stalling here. And then the volatility on the Qs is also pretty darn low there. And then similar with IWM. IWM hasn't rallied quite as much, but it has rallied up into this resistance area here as well. And again, as we look at this, look at the volatility, we can see that the volatility is coming back to a low there also. So all of these seem to indicate somewhat of a neutral to maybe even a bit of a bullish stance for our markets. Again, depending on news. Now, we're just have reached a level of rise in these markets to where I do think they're possibly in a little bit of a stalling area. I obviously was wrong last week, but I don't see us shooting up from here to that 6,000 mark pending some news. And right now, I feel like virtually all the favorable news is baked into the markets. The tariffs have largely eased. Earnings came in a little better than expected across the board, but with some questionable outlooks going forward, but not enough to scare the markets. And then the jobs report on Friday was actually a decent jobs report. So all of the different pieces of the puzzle here have indicated this bullish stance. I'm not sure what more would happen to cause this to spike up further. And again, some chopping sideways, possibly a little bit of maybe a pullback. I wouldn't expect a big one, maybe into this 5,500 range, pending some sort of major news coming out. So that's my thoughts here on the weekend update for May 3rd at this time.